We learn from elders. We learn from survival. We learned from each other. For trans guys. Wisdom you can feel. Real talk. Collective care. Hello, everybody, and welcome to For Trans Guys. My name is Megan.
I'm Zander.
I'm JJ.
Hey, we did it. So excited. Can I read you guys a poem? I just put out a new book of poetry called Transmissia, shameless plug. And I want to share this poem with you because there are little bits of both of you in this poem. And I thought it would be fun to read it. And then maybe we could talk about it.
Let's do it.
Okay, it's called Chosen Family Emergency Contact. And it's about the yesteryears of trans healthcare. Okay. When doctors opted out of trans care, insurance company flew trans patients and their chosen family emergency contact to other states for care and recovery. When medical protections fade or jurisdictions become hostile, collect your chosen family. Loved ones apply scar tape, clean drainage, replace gauze, empty urine bags, monitor medicine, encourage nutrition, and coax patients to rest the full recommended time. Now, I said that last part of the poem in that tone of voice because I feel I've said that tone of voice to both of you at some point in your lives of like, no, you need to lay down or whatever the doctor said for the full recommended time. That's the tone of voice I use when it's needed. One fun fact about this poem that I was having as a memory as I was writing it, Zander, is at one point, I don't even remember what state we were in. We got flown somewhere for something. And it ain't nobody's business what we were doing there for what health thing. But I have this very strong memory of waiting for you to finish up with the procedure. And the state we were in, their cable station is called the Cox Network, COX. And it made me laugh for about 4 to 7 hours of just watching whatever random ass show. I feel like it was like, it's not true, but it feels like it was like Sally Jesse Raphael kind of time, like, because it was like daytime TV. It wasn't that decade. It just would be funny if that was what I was watching on the Cox Network. But it made me laugh. It was like the most trans experience you could ever have in a waiting room. I can't remember if I ever told you that was the name of the cable station while I was waiting, but it just tickles my little memory to like think about stuff like that. What I thought,
and who knows, because I was probably under the influence of pretty heavy narcotics.
I couldn't say because I value HIPAA and you as my friend. But I would never talk about what happened when someone was under anesthesia because that's not fair to them. According to my wife, though, when I was having a medical procedure and I was under anesthesia, I just kept trying to be as nice as possible to the nurses, so much so that every time they would walk by, I would be like, thank you. So like I was so nervous that they would not be appreciative that they had to ask my wife to tell me to stop thanking them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Good to know. Yeah.
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 One of the things that like I hear from like other people a lot, I often get emails from people I know saying, hey, this person contacted me and they're coming. The Bay Area, there's lots of medical people. I came through the trans community around the time when most places around the country didn't have surgeons or anyone who knew about medical stuff. And so you'd actually have to go to a trans conference and they'd have like a time when people were willing to show their scars to each other and they would say which doctor did it. And then you could kind of like imagine if you used that surgeon or any of those things. So it was like kind of a show and tell, very private, very like no photos allowed. We don't talk about Bruno situation. And it was purely just like trans guys wanting to be helpful. Because if you Googled trans at that time, you just got pornography or only photos of when you first leave the surgery room. Never a healed person's photo would you ever see. And it would just, the goal was like, I think, to have medical procedures look like Frankenstein, frankly. And to make it feel gross or unobtainable, or that like none of the medicine was actually going to help you. And doctors sort of could have a lot of influence over you because they'd be like, well, I know that that's a bad thing, or that will fall off, or I don't do that because I'm an artist and I don't want anyone to think that my surgeries are like that. That was what I was told for 10 years. And so it was like a very different kind of lovely time where it really was like trans guys trusting each other to talk about their surgeries. I remember a very like pivotal part in my own personal like pondering of what my path would be. Lou Sullivan, a very cool trans guy who wrote a lot of letters and he created a newsletter in the 60s where he would share like what the dosage was that most trans guys were getting because no doctors like cared to learn what was working. And so
that
like,
might have been Reed Erickson.
Lou also did it too. Lou was the editor
in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, but in the 70s and 60s in San Francisco, he lived on Hyde Street, and he was the editor of a newsletter called Trans Girls and Golden Gate Girls and Guys.
Oh yeah,
and,
I thought he was still in the Midwest in the 70s. Okay.
Well, we'll put the exact date up when we Google it after we record.
Yeah.
But
he had his little booklet too that had the transsexuals and female to male transsexuals and cross dressers.
Yeah, and so he like became a writer, and then that's part of how he started being like a pen pal, is he was like publishing this newsletter, and then after that time period, he moves from San Francisco's Tenderloin on Hyde Street down to the Castro, and that's where he did his kind of 80s, 90s kind of different stuff. But he was one of the founders of the Gay and Lesbian Historical Society in San Francisco, and he donated all of his photos of himself going through the medical procedures that were happening in all of those years. He donated video, which I was able to kind of archive 20-ish years ago on his conversations with the psychological community. He recorded them every decade, and he would talk about what was different in his life with the same weird, condescending white dude man therapist. And so like, I'm just really grateful for whatever decade it was, whatever like conference it was, whatever ways that trans guys have been able to like gather and support each other in those decisions, whether it was like to help you make the decision about how you should navigate it, or if it was to support people through their like medical support. That all feels like a really important part of the journey. And since so many people reach out to me saying, hey, do you know anywhere people could recover, or people will email and say like, hey, so-and-so's flying in for this surgery, but they can't go home unless there's a human being to go home with them. Do you know anyone locally who's willing to be the like person to like pick someone up? They have a hotel, they've got nurses, like, but they need a person. And so I just thought we would do an episode where we talk online about like, how do you get your chosen family emergency contact? How do you connect with another city when you want to figure out how to do those resources? And do you have any thoughts or advice on that, Zander?
Absolutely. Well, there is an organization called T for T Caregivers, or Caregiving, that people can look up and reach out to them to see if there are people in their local area or people who are willing to travel. So that definitely exists. There's also the topsurgery.net website, the metoidioplasty.net, and the fallow.net websites. They're all done by the same trans guy. He lives up in Canada. And there's a lot of really good resources on there, in addition to the surgeons and the surgeries and whether they do or don't take insurance. There's also resources like Facebook groups and Yahoo groups and social media accounts for people that and groups of people that have already experienced surgeries that you can connect in with. And so that's the way we used to do it. We used to connect through Yahoo groups a lot, or local BOYZ boys groups like the Bay Boys, Bay Area Boys, Indie Boys, Beach Boys, Desert Boys, right? So you might have heard of such a group in your local area. It may or may not still exist, but they might be online now. So I would look for a BOYZ group with your city's official name or nickname or something like, for example, in Tucson, it was Desert Boys. And in San Diego, it was Beach Boys, BOYZ. So there's a lot of ways to connect. There's also different LGBT community centers that have support groups and discussion groups. That one booklet that Lou Sullivan did on the female to male transsexual and crossdresser resource guide, that was converted into a website, FTM Guide. I forget if it's .com or .org, but it's officially Hudson's FTM Guide. Hudson is a trans man who took all of that information that Lou compiled and put it onto the internet in the early 90s when that became something that you could do, create a web page. So there's so much information there. And then through our community that we're going to be building through For Trans Guys, that's also going to be a way to connect. So be on the lookout for that and connect in with us. What about you, JJ? What kind of resources?
Yeah, well, I was always fascinated by the fact that Harry Benjamin in San Francisco, who worked, I think, with Lou and with Reed Erickson, on the same floor in the same building is where the Gender Confirmation Center is now. And that was an organization that I worked with. And so I didn't realize that at the time, but once I started doing some of the walking tour type of things, I learned the connection, and I thought that that was fabulous to know. I do like that there are folks like me that do peer support. There are, folks that just want to step up and help. It's amazing how many people, even now in their 50s to 80s, are getting care and needing other types of care that has nothing to do with our transness, that, needs that aging kind of support and care. So, wonderful gift to be able to be something like a in-home support specialist type person, knowing how to do care coordination and kind of helping with that community health worker type of space, getting some of those designations, whether they might be peer support, so that you can actually bill to Medi-Cal and Medicare and all the different versions of that are across the United States. There are just some really great opportunities that if you want to be an intentional helper of that kind, you can go from, hey, I'm just a really cool dude who knows how to put a Band-Aid on, all the way to I have all these great certifications that help in all the different ways of being. And over the next, 20 to 40 years, we'll have a whole generation of trans folks, particularly trans men, that are going to need ongoing love and care as we age. And we're looking, to the younger generations to help us and to kind of lead the way in some of that care space and care capacity. So, I'm hopeful as we get our group together and we start having more conversations about this, that we start to choose each other as family, and that we have opportunities for being like, hey, I will be your intentional emergency contact. And what does that even mean and look like? In the peer support and even chaplaincy realms of work that I did, a lot of things came around advanced directives, medical power of attorneys, documentation like that, where we really sit down and intentionally think, gosh, if I'm sick, what do I want? Who do I want to tell my needs to? Who, if I'm unconscious and don't come out of a surgery or don't come out of whatever care situation that I'm into, will make appropriate decisions about who I am and will be present enough for me, right? A lot of people, when I was working in the hospital as a chaplain, a lot of family members hadn't heard from their loved one for years and years and suddenly show up and they're the decision maker. And they have all their own baggage that they're claiming and trying to figure out. Versus what is this person who's lying in a bed or who might be dying, what is it that they really want and need? And because we don't have a lot of those heartfelt conversations and we don't intentionally choose, I think as a society, or even talk about death generally, but we don't really choose our emergency contact. We just assume people will show up for us, generally speaking, has been my experience. It's so profoundly important for us to take the time and really just even sit with our own selves and go, what is it that I want? How do I want to be loved and cared well? And who are those people that I trust deeply who will take my little list of things that I think are important to me and care for me well? Yeah, it's a great topic, Megan. I really appreciate you bringing this up, and what a beautiful poem. I can't wait to see the rest of the book kind of come out. And I heard that it was when it came out, it was like number one, like really quickly. So I'm just so excited with you about all the work that you're doing around this book. And can you tell us, why did you come up with transmissia? Like, what is it that that term exactly helps us understand?
I mean, transmissia sort of is a cousin of transphobia, but a little bit less assuming that people are afraid, and a little more that like people are the way my kind of fun play on words is that people are trans missing out, right? That they are um sometimes there are like little ways that people are making the lives of trans people harder, even allies who are very well meaning. And sometimes there are big intentional policy ways that people are doing it. And all of it adds up to a kind of stress that people have to carry as they navigate the world. And I thought it was helpful to write something that, number one, lets me sort of like get out some of what I don't want to hold on to or keep inside me and put out into the world. But also, like, I had a real lens towards kind of like what this podcast is, talking to trans guys and helping them, any trans person, honestly, that like helps them feel less alone as they navigate this stuff in the world. Sometimes I felt like someone being grumpy towards me was personal, and knowing that a single other person goes through it helps me out a lot. Um, and I also think there's like a lot of people who are doing the work to try to understand trans people. I think there are a bunch of people who like watch these conversations because they're like, I truly want to be supportive. So like I'm going to engage in these conversations. And I think the more we can dare to be open about some of the like paper cuts that we're experiencing, the more hopefully people can start to learn how to be less stressful when they're caring for us. Is that the nice way to say it? Um, and for me, poetry is a really great way to talk about it, because then it's not perceived as like revenge, because you know, I told you this poem reminded me of the two of you, but most people aren't going to get that from like the words in the poem, right? And so I think poems can help you touch on something hard in a way that's not so deep and stressful that it drags other people down. And so hopefully it like gives people a sense of what it felt like to be in that moment, and to understand maybe the feelings that trans people might navigate through, but not feel like paralyzed or stuck by them. And certainly I think like the way I wrote it is meant to like not give the idea that I think I'm a victim of this stuff, but that I think that I'm a very strong person who can like navigate through it. There are also like parts of my life where I did a job that's very confidential. And so like to be able to like have reflections on a thing that's very confidential and to do it through metaphor rather than being like, well, you know what happened in confession the other day. Like I just am not that person. Um, I also am like a very morally principled person, like similar to Zander. Like I've been a pacifist a very long time. I've been a practicing person who cares about principled nonviolence, even in my communication for a long time, like regardless of slings and arrows of what people accuse me of, because as I talk about in the book a lot, like people like to project things on others, and when they thought being female was negative, people projected female stuff on me. And when people thought being male was negative, they projected that negativity on me. And it says more about the people doing the projecting than me, but I don't remember that always in my day to day. And so parts of it are like just reminding myself I went through hard stuff and like I'm brave and strong. And then the other part of it is kind of aspirational. Like a couple of the poems I wrote, like, what are the words I need to hear to make it through this? And people don't need to know which ones I've like fully achieved and which ones I'm like still working on, because ain't none of y'all's business. Like, what's the hardest stuff in my life most days? But that was kind of the vibe of carrying it. And then also, like, if you put stuff out in the world, then people can share their own reflections, or like the places where I like have missed the mark and still need to do more learning, I can learn about. Like, I looked it up, and you're right, Zander. It was 1980 when Lou Sullivan was doing the Girl Guide newsletter. Because of course you're right. You ran the Lou Sullivan Society, right? But I just think there's a way in which, like, sometimes like putting stuff like that out there, I've found is sometimes too soon to say it. But if I risk putting something out when there's maybe like one typo left, that it encourages other people that they don't have to be perfect. Like, because I've met so many people who are like, I've got this memoir I've always wanted to write. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, let's publish it. And Wilgefortis is kind of a publishing company that's helped people do that for a really long time. And so I just try to like live it and put it out in the world. So I hope people enjoy it. Zander wrote me a really sweet email about it with favorite lines, and that like really made my day. I look forward to like chatting if you've interacted with it, like put some of your favorite lines in the chat, or let me know if you've got like feedback, like where I missed a comma or something. Like, you can just keep that one, because there's probably a poem in the book about why you don't have to say everything you think out loud. But I am a person who is dyslexic. It is a miracle I have published so many books, and so like, when you tell me what the typos are, I'll feel bad for a second, but not forever, because sometimes we just got to get it out there. I don't know.
Well, thank you. I'm so grateful for the poem, for you sharing it today, Megan. Thank you so much. It really means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
definitely. Any words
definitely.
of advice, Zander, for anyone who's looking for their chosen family, or might be like sad they don't have it yet?
Well, the thing about chosen family that could end up getting in our way a little bit is waiting until the person or the people say everything exactly right the way we want it to be said, or agree with everything that we agree with, right? If we're looking for that perfect person or those perfect people who are going to love us unconditionally and who are going to be a replica of us, a mirror to us, we could end up spending the rest of our lives waiting for family, right? Waiting for that connection. And so I know that people are in some ways celebrating estrangement from their families online, and because for whatever reason, right, their family doesn't support them, they voted a way that upsets them, they believe something, they support something that they don't like. If the expectation is that somewhere you're going to find this group of people, however small, it could be a group of one, that is an exact replica of you, I think you're going to be looking for a long time, right? So one of the things that I had to come to terms with myself, and what I'll pass on to you, is that I'm not perfect. I know that might come as a shock to you. And so I can't expect the people in my life to be perfect. It's that Gandhian thing, right? Of be the change you want to see. So accept that you're not perfect, and then choose people to surround yourself with who are equally imperfect, and be imperfect together. And that might mean that they just think differently from you, worship differently from you, have different things that they enjoy doing from you. And that can actually be a very beautiful type of family to have. So that's what I'll offer.
Well, now I have to leave the thing in and not edit it out. So if you wondered why I said I might and I didn't, that's why. We're not perfect, and you don't have to be either.
That's right.
But a very wholehearted, like, thank you, JJ, and thank you, Zander, for being part of my chosen family.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to leave everyone with this adage. It's not actually an adage, but it's a cool thing Zander says sometimes when Zander doesn't understand me but still wants to be in my chosen family. You ready for it? Well, I don't understand that, but I don't need to.
Yep.
Anyway, what you doing tomorrow? So, whether you got it all figured out, whether you've got nothing figured out, whether you're hoping we'll be in your chosen family, or you're going to go right out and take everything we talked about and apply it into your life, all good. Like, subscribe, message. We really will answer your emails if you are interested in being the fourth trans guy to be in conversation with us. That's a real thing we do. And just know your chosen family, if you haven't found it yet, is out there. Just saying. See you soon, everybody.